Hello, welcome to today's edition of Transformation in 10. If you don't know who I am, I'm Pastor Howard Bass of Metro Life Church in the Tampa Bay area of Florida. It's great to have you join us here on our YouTube channel at Metro Life Church and Metro Life TV. I want to bring a word of wisdom that I believe will encourage you today. If you were part of Sunday's service live, or if you've been able to catch that on the replay, then you know we talked about the prophet Elijah and the dark place he went in particular in 1 Kings 19. And we dealt with quite a bit of material in that, and there's something very powerful as it relates to goals and focus that God does with Elijah that broke his darkness and set him on a brand new path of hope. Hope that's legitimate is rooted in truth. Let me say that again. Hope that's legitimate is rooted in truth. Biblical hope, kingdom hope, the God kind of hope that encourages us, that refreshes us, that releases us to new beginnings and gives us a sense of a recovered equilibrium in our lives, especially when we've gone through a dark season like Elijah did. That hope is rooted in truth. That hope is rooted in a focus that God helps us recover. And maybe you're in a time in your own life right now where you're struggling to keep your focus, or maybe you're in a dark place for whatever the reason. One of the things you've lost in the darkness is your sense of focus. So I want to speak to that today, because God does something very powerful for Elijah. And so when Elijah has retreated into that cave, and he has gone there, as we said Sunday, to bury himself. That cave is actually a type of a tomb. And we know all of the emotional, spiritual, and psychological darkness that Elijah was processing through for a season of time. He'd been in that condition. And so when God met him, God breathed on him. He restored life to his soul. In his inner man, he gave him a refreshing, a renewing. And with that, he gave him a brand new sense of hope by giving him some new beginnings to focus on. It's powerful and it's practical. You see, purpose is power. And in the darkness, when we go through dark seasons, it is very likely that we lose our sense of purpose. And when we lose our purpose, we lose our focus. So let's talk for a minute about the power of purpose and the power of focus. One of the practical things God does for Elijah, he said, in order to bring you out of the darkness you've been in, I'm going to give you a new beginning. And that new beginning are some goals and some purposes that were not on your life before this season that I'm going to put on your life moving forward. And I want you to forget the darkness you've been through and focus on the new beginnings I'm laying before you. There's something very hopeful at a deep level that's transformative. Hope that's rooted in truth. So it's not just hype. It's not just wishing and wanting something different or something new, or wishing or wanting that maybe I could just somehow snap out of this. When you've really been in a dark place, in a dark season, you know it's not as simple as just snapping out of it. I'm talking right now about the kind of darkness where God shows up, gives you a visitation, and in that visitation puts a brand new beginning upon your life. And what he does for Elijah, he says, okay, I want you to go. Go. The first thing God says to Elijah after he hears his complaint and lets him vent and lets him get out of his system all of the pain and the frustration, the anger, the depression that he's buried in the depths of his being, when God allows him to really, in a practical sense, to vent on God, to bleed on the Lord and get some therapy. Once he gets that out of his system, God says to him, here's what I want you to do. I want you to do this, this, and this. He gives 3 specific assignments on him. He shows him the future. And then here's what he says. Go. I want you to go. Stop focusing on what you've been through. No longer make your darkness your focus. You see, that's one of the dirty little secrets of trying to get free from a dark season or something that's dark in your life. There's a type of darkness that's hindering you. And the more you focus on the darkness to try to fix the darkness, the more entangled in the darkness you become. Focusing on the darkness never produces deliverance. Your focus has to be future. You've got to be forward focused, future focused. But when you're in a deep, dark place, it's easier said than done. And I'm talking now about the kind of new beginning that really is a divine appointment that only God can give you. And so for those who are in darkness right now, let me say this. Somewhere in your darkness, there's a divine appointment God has scheduled. You may not see it coming, but God's going to meet you in a moment of visitation and bring about a brand new, renewed sense of hope that comes from a new beginning and a brand new focus. So part of the practical element of what God does for us is he gives us a new beginning and gives us a brand new focus. So he gives Elijah some things externally to focus on. The pattern here is this. God deals with Elijah internally in his inner man. He reboots that, but then he puts brand new purpose on his life. And he says, here's what I want you to go do. I want you to pursue this. Purpose creates passionate pursuit. And when we move in a brand new sense of passionate pursuit, it restores our sense of joy, hope, confidence, meaning, productivity. Purpose, as I said a minute ago, purpose is power. Maybe you've lost your sense of purpose. I'm praying and believing, because I know who God is, that somewhere in your darkness, he's going to meet you and restore your purpose. Now, it may not be an old purpose. He may give you a new one. The things he says to Elijah in 1 Kings 19 are brand new things that God shows him as it relates to his purpose, to set in him a brand new focus and sense of direction. And then he says to him to go. I want you to go pursue the new beginnings I've told you about. I want you to no longer focus on the darkness. Don't focus on what you've been through. Focus on the things I'm calling you to do in a brand new season, in a new era that I'm laying upon your life. So practically speaking, God says to him, okay, I've given you all of this. I've reset your focus. Now go. Go. The interesting thing about the word go is it's the first two letters in the word goal. So I want to ask you, what are your goals right now? What are the God-given goals that you carry? And what are the personal goals you have? What are your God goals? What are your personal goals? Goals and dreams are interchangeable if you want to change that word out. Substitute dreams for goals and goals for dreams. But regardless of whether it's a goal or a dream, however you want to qualify it, you'll never move to it until you first go. There's deliverance in going after something. There's deliverance in having the courage to pursue a new beginning. Part of how God pulls Elijah out of the funk he was in and the darkness of that season was to put new purpose on his life and then to authorize him to go after it. So again, what are your goals? What are your God goals? What are your personal goals? And what are you doing to go after them? The reason I'm asking that is because part of breaking cycles of darkness is revisiting our goals, hearing what God is saying about the goals he has for us, and then moving from intention or want to action. Again, the first two letters in the word goal are G-O, go. You'll never reach your goal if you don't go. God says to Elijah, I hear you, I feel you, I get you, but your time here is over. I need you to move forward. Elijah, if you want the healing you're believing me for, if you want to step into the fullness of the next or the new beginnings or the future I've showed you, you've got to go. So I want to leave this with you today. What are the things you need to be going after? And in what ways have you been allowing your darkness to be an excuse or to become an excuse or a rationalization for you to no longer be forward focused and going after something? Excuses are easy. But winners, champions, the great men and women of God have the unique ability to tap in to what God is saying and doing next and to go after it. What are your goals? What are your dreams? What do you need to be going after? Finally, Paul says this in the book of Philippians, chapter 1, verse 13 and 14. He said, "This one thing I do, regardless of what's behind me, whether it's a success or a failure, good or bad, darkness or light, no matter what's behind me, I refuse to focus on my past, victories or defeats, successes or failures. I'm not focused in where I've been. This one thing I do," Paul says, "forgetting those things that are behind and focusing on those, reaching for those things that are ahead of me. I press, I push in, I make steps and move forward, exclusively focusing on those things that are ahead of me by forgetting what's behind me." The beautiful thing of what God does for Elijah in 1 Kings 19 to pull him out of the darkness is exactly the thing that Paul expresses to the church at Philippi in Philippians chapter 1. God saying, "I'm giving you the release and permission to stop focusing on the darkness, to begin believing me that in the spite of the darkness, that's no longer a factor. I've authorized you to create some new successes in your life, to accomplish some things, to discover a new sense of purpose and a new sense of being as you emerge out of this season. I want you to go and focus on where you're headed, not on where you've been." My prayer for you today is, if that's been a struggle for you, that the Spirit of God's going to free you up in whatever area you need it. He's going to give you the help you need, and that He's going to meet you with some new beginnings. And He's going to set fresh purpose and a renewed focus in you. And watch how a recovered sense of hope, spiritual hope, emotional hope, mental clarity, and physical energy are restored to your life. God's a God of passion, purpose, and power. And as God moves you out of your darkness, look for some brand new beginnings, and then give yourself permission to go after those things. You'll never achieve a goal until you go.